Well, hello then, I do hope you're all well. Now in this final video here is our floundering Boris Johnson in his last epic rant as power is ebbing away at the end of his liaison committee meeting, where he is asked about the bullying scandal, you know, with Priti Patel, where his ethics advisor resigned. That's very interesting. And then the Chris Pincher scandal, and then he goes on to make the most ridiculous remark about sexual assault and alcohol.
On the question of the Prime Minister's advisor on ministerial interests, you've had two resignations, not just one. Why did Sir Alex Allen resign?
Well, Sir Alex has I think been pretty well documented, and I thank him too, was asked to investigate allegations of bullying against the Home Secretary. The team produced quite a long report, which was based on a lot of extensive work, mainly anonymised interviews, and I read it very thoroughly. And the trouble I found with it was...
I very much doubt that. It's well renowned that you're well laser, so I bet you didn't read it.
Was that nothing that the Home Secretary had actually said seemed to me to breach the threshold necessary to trigger her resignation. Although you might argue that she should have spoken in a different way from time to time. It didn't seem to me that the allegations wholly stacked up, and I thought that it didn't trigger a resignation. Sir Alex,
that wasn't the reason.
Yes, I'm coming to the reason.
The reason he resigned is because you wouldn't even accept his report.
Well, no. Well, let me put it.
Shocking, huh? Well, I bet he didn't. I bet he shit his pants when he thinking I might have to come up against it. Pretty awful Patel. What a weasel.
Let me say what happened. So Sir Alex took a view that it wasn't that. I read the report and I read the whole thing. He didn't actually write it, but he simply read it and drew some conclusions. I read all the interrogations that had taken place, and it didn't seem to me that, although she might have spoken differently from time to time, it didn't seem to me that she deserved to be fired on the basis of what I read.
Shouldn't be fired for bullying. Don't that tells you everything about the Chris Pincher. Let me guess. Yeah, she's a bit handsy, but yeah, don't need to be fired, does it? Jesus Christ, no morals, no gumption. There's no about this guy, is it? If you watched all the way through, if I remember, I'll put a link to the whole thing. If you haven't watched it, every question he's got that where am I look on his face, as if to say, I don't know anything. And that's our Prime Minister. What a pathetic weasel. Like I said all the way through when I've been watching it, there's nothing about this clown. Just a lying, snivelling little turd who will shit on anybody just to get where he wants to be. And he did, didn't he?
I read the whole thing. So I made this point. Now, the difficulty was that Sir Alex thought that the ministerial code had been breached, even if in a minor way, and that any breach of the ministerial code necessarily meant a resignation.
So you don't think bullying into resignation a resigning matter?
That view has subsequently been modified by the Committee on Standards in Public Life, who have said that the ministerial that there can be gradations of sanctions for breaches of the ministerial code.
So what you should have done is accepted Sir Alex Allen's report. He would not have resigned.
Well, then
it would
the Home
still
Secretary...
be in your gift not to demand the Home Secretary's resignation.
No, but it wasn't...
And the system would have been changed retrospectively as it has done. But you wouldn't even accept his report.
No, Savannah, as I remember, the problem was that in order...
Look at them eyes looking up and say, what can I say to get out of this?
I would have had to accept the Home Secretary's resignation. That was the problem. and that didn't seem to me, although
So
that didn't seem to me to be a necessary outcome.
I mean, supposing you continue in office, what are the lessons you learn from the appointment of Chris Pincher?
I think the most important lesson is, first of all, don't be less optimistic about people's ability to learn and
perhaps take a bit more
change.
interest in it, because it's extraordinary how many things.
And then secondly, and
Prime
I think
Minister, perhaps you should just take a bit more interest.
Secondly, when something like this,
Just didn't even listen, did he? Just went off on a tangent. It just went way over his head. Jesus Christ. He's learnt nothing, and clearly he's just never learnt anything. He's just... I don't really care about anybody, but except myself.
happens, make sure that we do a full timetable of exactly what happened and when it happened, so that when people go out to brief, they've got all the facts at their fingertips.
But it's not a comms failure, this, Prime Minister. It's a proprietary and ethics failure. Isn't the real lesson that if we promote people with the wrong behaviour and attitudes in this place, it will give permission for people to behave in that way, which is why we've got a culture problem in this place.
I think that you're onto. I think what you're saying is very important. I've given this a lot of thought, and I do think
You've given it a lot of thought. I very much doubt that.
There is a problem with alcohol, and
Well, don't have a bar in Parliament then. Problem solved.
I've always resisted this conclusion in the past, but it sort of feels to me that some people simply can't take their drink, and we need to...
Wow, so you're basically saying that he's not a pervert, he just has a problem with alcohol. Can't control his drink. You're an idiot.
We need to think about how we work that in Parliament. Now, this particular event took place in
Didn't take place in Parliament.
But there is also an issue about standards of behaviour, so I additionally accept that I should have been more stringent in my approach, and as I've said earlier, I regret that.
But don't we also need to learn? I take it that Chris Pincher is a friend of yours, and that would be perfectly respectable, that we've let him down because we didn't give him the help he needed.
I think that's a very fair point.
What system
That's probably the truest thing you've ever said, Bodge.
is there in this place to support people in that position? What do you have in place as a leader of a political party to help people who have behavioural or drink problems?
Well, I think that we all have a duty as colleagues to look after each other and to try to help people, and that's actually one of the functions of the Whip's office.
What? You think that the Whips who go around bullying MPs into voting how they want them to vote, and if they don't, that little bit of a scandal that we helped to bury, just might make its way into the papers, so they've got to be care workers as well. What's this guy on? He's an idiot, isn't he?
Well, I mean, unfortunately, Whips have other duties, and they rather conflict with their duty of care. And there needs to be something else to support people who need help, who don't feel that they're giving ammunition to the people who control their careers. So that doesn't work, does it? We've now got another Whip appointed to do the duty of care work. I mean, that's not going to work, is it?
That tells you he hasn't got a clue, is it? This is the last throes of a man who is just being exposed for what he is. He doesn't care about Chris Pincher. He says he's a great friend, and he doesn't care. It was all about what was best for Bodger.
Bernard, what are you proposing?
I'm not going to make policy on the hoof here, but...
That sums him up. What do you propose, Sir Bernard? You're the Prime Minister, Bodge, not Sir Bernard, you idiot.
What you've got in place as leader of your party is not working. Would you accept that?
No, I think there are issues about...
Even then, he couldn't even admit it, could he? No, the ego within him could not allow him to admit that he's got things wrong.
Standards of behaviour, and I think I reluctantly come to the conclusion that there is an issue with alcohol.
Well, I mean, you're the last person in the room to accept that there's a problem. Why do you think integrity in public life has become such an issue under your premiership?
Well, I think actually the reality is that I think that people are very, very keen to try to get me off the subjects.
Now we're going on to the distraction again. Shows you everything about this man. The last throes of a delusionist narcissist, I should say. He's been found out. He can see its end of the road is nigh, so it's his last throw of the dice to get out of the scrape he's in.
I want to talk about, and to try to focus on me.
So it's all about you.
No, I don't want to talk about it. I want to talk. I've been trying very hard.
Don't you see these failures have made it about you?
Throughout this session, to talk about the things that I care about.
Now, how much consideration are you giving to the prospect of your resignation?
I'm happy to tell you that I'm getting on with the job that I was elected to do, and that is what I'm going to do.
So all these problems are basically somebody else's fault?
No, I think that I think it was
so who is
one of these people who's left.
Who is responsible?
Who
should be held accountable?
I am responsible, but I'm also responsible, Bernard, for delivering a huge manifesto commitments that we made in 2019, many of which are now coming through. Hugh asked...
This is the last throes of a absolute turd. You know, this is our leader. Well, he was, but this is pathetic, isn't it? It just shows you everything he is about this man.
Asked about what are we doing to make sure that we're taxing electric vehicles properly. There is a colossal body of work that we're engaged on right now. We are uniting and levelling up across the country. We have the biggest programme of infrastructure investment that we've had for 100 years. And I'm going to get on with delivering on the programme that we set out and on the priorities of the people of this country. Important. And I know that there will be plenty of people who, for whatever motive, want to try to throw me off course by turning it into a story about something.
Pathetic, isn't it? Well, the looks acted like a little spoilt child who's not been allowed to get his favourite chocky bar at the checkout, and now he's having a strop.
Something entirely different. And I think that it would be a fine thing if we focused on the arguments between us that are about policy and about the agenda and what we actually love doing, which is working hard for our constituents and trying to make their lives better. You know, let's talk. I mean, we've had some interesting exchanges about how to control inflation.
Interesting exchanges. I think that's putting it mildly.
Or motor vehicles. Those are the things that people are interested in, and that's what I'm focused on.
Caroline Noakes.
Bullying and sexual harassment are about a culture of power. Have you just sat there and told us that alcohol is an excuse?
Not at all. Not at all.
I think you did.
Not at all.
Is it throwing us off the story by trying to talk about alcohol instead of talking about the culture that has underpinned those behaviours?
Not at all. Not at all. I observe that some people seem to get very drunk, but that in no way minimises the underlying pattern of behaviour.
Well, that's what you've just done.
Exactly. I don't think.
Prime Minister,
yeah, you did.
I vehemently disagree with that.
I hope that you will reflect that in the end we're all dispensable
Bernard, that is certainly true.
The programmes and the policies of your government and
all flesh is grass.
the welfare of the British people and the security of the nation are indispensable. And if you are becoming an obstruction to the achievement of those aims, I hope you will consider your position.
Clearly he's not.
Of course I will. But I wanted you to know that my job is to get on and deliver on those aims, and that is what I was elected to do.
Will you resign if it is clear that you do not have the confidence of the majority of Conservative MPs?
No.
You're asking me, I love this committee, but you're asking me again to offer commentary today on political events when I'm here to talk about
I wish you to
policy.
be clear about one thing, that if you have lost the confidence of your MPs, you will not seek a dissolution. You will stand aside and allow a leadership election to take place so the Prime Minister may send for an alternative leader. That's the proper procedure, isn't it?
What I'm going to do is get on with...
No, I need you to answer this question.
Where you're quite right, and where I passionately agree
I need you to answer
with
this
Will
question, Prime
and
Minister.
with you, is...
Doesn't he look like an immature little child? Pathetic little weasel who's weaseled his way to the top by shitting on anybody else who gets in his way, and now you can see that even he knows that the end is nigh, and he's just putting on this act. It's pathetic.
That I see absolutely
If
no
you
need
have, Prime Minister, I'm going to ask you
for
once
an
more,
election.
if you have lost the confidence of your MPs and you're required to step down as leader of the Conservative Party, you will not seek to dissolve Parliament.
Well,
Please
I think the
confirm
last
that
thing
that is
this
the
country
case.
needs...
Because we need... Because this House...
But I'm not going to step down, and the last thing this country needs, frankly, is election.
Because this House...
On the contrary, I think the risk is that people continue to focus on this type of thing, and I think that is a mistake. What we need to do is get on with stable...
How would it help the crisis in Ukraine and the cost of living crisis if we were plunged into a general election that nobody wants?
But this is your fancy.
Well, then,
I think
then rule it out. Rule it out.
Of course I rule it out.
You've ruled it out.
The earliest date that I can see for a general election is 2 years from now, or 2024, I think is the most likely date for the next election. We have a huge amount to deliver. We're going to get on and do it.
And you'll resign if a vote of confidence in the Conservative Party
I think we're done.
is carried.
Look,
Otherwise, you're a danger.
You're asking me to comment on politics. I think it's important that we get on and deliver on our agenda, and that is what I was elected to do.
Well, I think it's the understanding of this committee you envisage a general election in 23 or 24, not before.
Well, you said 23.
And if you've lost the confidence of your own MPs and you cease to be leader of the Conservative Party, you will not plunge this country into an unwanted general election.
I've been very clear with you. I see no
yes or no?
reason whatever for a general election now. On the contrary, what we need is stable government, loving each other as Conservatives, getting on with our priorities. That is what we need to do, Sir Bernard. Okay?
I love all my colleagues in the House of Commons.
Fantastic.
Order.
Thank you.
Now, I could have done a video about his pathetic, mealy-mouthed, lack of contrition speech, resignation speech, should I say. But I'd rather show, the real Prime Minister in all his glory. The mad rants of a narcissist in full delusionment, so to speak, as his time is nearing the end. Thank God. Right, I shall bid you farewell, and I do hope you all have a wonderful weekend. Until the next time, take care.